Edu, sorry, you're just you're muted. Can you take yourself off mute? Thanks.
Oh, well, then again. Hi everyone, I'm Eduardo Bejar from Fundapi, and I want you to welcome to the Corporal 2023 Summit. This year holds a special place in the civic tech community start, as Corporal commemorates its 10th anniversary, culminating its fourth annual online summit. Whether you're familiar face as a first part or a first-time participant, you should know that the 2023 Summit is more than just an event. It's a global convergence that the Corporals core team, along with the 31 member organizations, creates each year to foster unity within the global civic tech community. To celebrate their 10th anniversary, the network is kicking off a crowdfunding campaign and turning to their amazing community with a heartfelt ask. Throughout the duration of the summit, you have the chance to chip in an amount that feels just right for you. Your support is absolutely crucial in keeping the unity and empowerment of both the Cultural Network and the Cultural Summit alive. In the screen and the chat, we will share the link where you can directly contribute to amplifying Cultural's mission and propelling their efforts in the years to come. So before we get started, a few housekeeping items. During the session today, we'll start by hearing from Karen Calva, Roberto Esteves, and myself. We will have a conversation, and then the room will open up with Q&A from the audience at the end. If you'd like to ask any question during the webinar, please type them into the chat window on YouTube live streaming. We'll try to address them during the conversation. A recorded version of this webinar will be available at codeforall.org and on our YouTube channel for future watching. Great, now let's get into it. The session you are joined today is called AI and Open Data to Fight Corruption. And it's all about analyzing opportunities that machine learning algorithms and intelligence models have to strengthen citizen advocacy in the fight against corruption. Our speakers today are Karen Calva, a skilled in mathematical modeling, data science, and public speaking and financial modeling. Karen's field of expertise is using data science to achieve business goals by using programming and cloud computing. She's currently the machine learning lead at a payment gateway in Latin America. Roberto Esteves, entrepreneur, always looking for the best solutions to problems. Innovative, discovering that each problem has more than one solution. Professional in digital transformation with more than 20 years of experience in the development of digital strategies, crisis management in social networks, and innovation. And myself, Eduardo Bejar, computer systems engineer with a master's degree in data science, working in the intersection of technology, civic engagement, transparency, and social change, with experience in the development of civic tech projects and involvement in different groups related to open government, open data, and AI in Latin America. I'm also the executive director of Fundapi. Thank you so much for being with us today. So let's start the discussion. Being this open conversation, I would like to start with the very basics. For example, it has been widely accepted that access to public information and the availability of open government data boost public transparency and potentially contributes to an increased levels of accountability. Starting to the conversation, I would like to ask Karen, what do you think about the role of data, algorithms, and transparency in the fight against corruption? So, Karen, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well? I guess this is good. So it's my pleasure to be here with all of you. Speaking about corruption, fraud, and money laundering, these three topics have devastating consequences. They undermine trust in institutions, perpetuate inequality, and can weaken entire economies. Fortunately, there are measures to combat these practices, detecting and reporting corruption, strengthening laws and regulations, and overall promoting transparency and are key steps in addressing these issues. The top of the line of these ideas is that in today's interconnected world, combating requires innovative solutions like AI. Open data and algorithms can be a powerful tool in the fight against corruption, as they can examine large datasets, looking for multivariate patterns and anomalies that might go unnoticed by humans. But artificial intelligence is not only reactive, but also proactive. It can help prevent fraud by continuously monitoring data for potential cyber threats and vulnerabilities. Back to you, Eduardo.
So, taking that into consideration, what examples and good practices you think can be highlighted in relation to the use of data and algorithms in the fight against corruption?
For example, in my experience in the banking sector, artificial intelligence-driven fraud detection systems are employed. One example is the use of machine learning algorithms such as random forest or gradient boosting machine to analyze millions and millions of transactions in real time. These algorithms detect unusual concentrations or patterns and flag potential fraudulent activities. We can also monitor, for example, public procurement processes for signs of corruption. Governments agencies around the world are leveraging AI to combat corruption. For example, and this was a big news, in Brazil, the Operations Car Wash investigation used data analysis and artificial intelligence algorithms to uncover a massive corruption scandal involving state-owned company Petrobras. These algorithms detect suspicious transactions and uncovered hidden relationships between entities. Another example, and the last one, is the realm of cryptocurrency, where money laundering is a concern. Blockchain analysis tools powered by artificial intelligence are used. Chainalysis, for instance, utilizes clustering algorithms to trace the flow of digital assets and detect suspicious activities, aiding in the prevention of money laundering. So that's my answer, Eduardo.
Thank you, Karen. So, just to dive a bit more in the topic, considering that the topic of this session is to analyze the opportunities of machine learning algorithms to strengthen citizen advocacy in the fight against corruption. In general terms, just to get Roberto into the conversation, what opportunities do you think exist on this field?
Hi, Eduardo. Hi, everyone. Great question. And machine learning algorithms and artificial intelligence model offer several significant opportunities to strengthen citizen advocacy in the fight against corruption. This technology can enhance transparency, accountability, and effectiveness of anti-corruption efforts. Ways like machine learning can analyze vast amounts of data, including open data source, financial record, and government documents, to identify patterns and anomalies indicate of corrupt practice. This can help citizen advocacy groups pinpoint areas of concern and focus efforts on high-risk areas. Predictive analysis, AI models can be trained to predict potential corruption hotspots or trends based on historical data. This enables advocacy groups to proactively target areas with a higher likelihood of corruption, making this effort more efficient. Data visualization, public engagement, risk assessment, policy recommendation, machine learning AI model we can use to take these areas and make the advocacy more efficient to take more what to say. Okay. Overall, machine learning algorithms and AI model empowering citizen advocacy by providing advanced tools of data analysis like prediction and communication. This enhances the ability to identify spokes and combat corruption. However, this is essential to consider ethical and privacy implications when implementing these technologies in anti-corruption efforts to ensure they are user responsibility and do not inadvertently harm individuals of groups. Eduardo.
So we can say that actually there can be some solutions that can address actually corruption issues by engaging the public or creating like analytics in some topics or just creating data visualizations. Uh, of course, all this can drive and create new and better policies to make decisions. And actually, we have in Ecuador experience, which we can talk about later, about using open data that is published by the National Procurement Agency and combining, of course, open data and the creation of some machine learning algorithms. We are currently detecting patterns and anomalies to predict processes that could have some time of alert. So we'll get back to that later, but before going further on that topic, back to Karen, I would like to ask you if you consider that there should be some limits or some kind of regulation that should apply in general, or that can be applied to algorithms and data, in particular in the use of these solutions to prevent and detect acts of corruption. Do you think there should be some limits? This should be an open arena to develop anything? What's your take on that?
Sure, Eduardo. And so you have a little interrupted audio, so I'm going to repeat the question. Eduardo was telling us about open data in governments. For example, here in Ecuador, we have a portal where there are some open data and institutions using this data to detect, for example, corruption. And nowadays, this is a highly demand topic because we're thinking about policies, for example, and the privacy of the data. So managing and processing massive amounts of data efficiently poses logistical challenges for governments around the world. So this isn't for everybody. And nowadays, also the privacy of the information implies that these massive amounts of data should be safe and guarded. One crucial step is to encourage governments and privacy enterprises to take measures to harness the power of data-driven AI solutions. Governments should develop comprehensive legal frameworks that incentivize data collection for AI applications in the fight of corruption and terrorism. They should actively promote public-private partnerships to facilitate the sharing of data and resources, fostering a collaborative environment. To effectively use artificial intelligence, governments must prioritize education and training programs. They must implement robust data protection policies and procedures to ensure compliance with privacy regulations while collecting and processing data. This task involves the society too. So this is a challenge for everyone. The society should be empowering for data transparency, and AI-driven security is imperative. There are changes and developments necessary to empower society in this regard. Education and public awareness campaigns should be actively promoted to inform the public about the importance of public data, data security, and how AI is employed to prevent issues such as corruption, fraud, or terrorism. Clear and comprehensive legislations and regulations are needed to protect individual privacy while allowing legitimate data usage for security and crime prevention. This should explicitly define data usage and access rights. By implementing these changes, we can empower society to demand transparency in public data, understand that data security, and recognize the vitality role for AI in preventing corruption. Surely, together we can create a more informed and proactive society. Together we can demand transparency in public data, champion the cause of data privacy, and harness the potential of artificial intelligence to combat corruption and education ourselves, engaging in public debate and holding both government and corporations accountable that our data is securing our institutions are trustworthy. We can active advocates of a world where data empowers rather than exploits, where technology safeguards rather than threatens. Our collective commitment can turn this vision into reality, Eduardo. That's my hope.
Let's hope all that because actually it's a topic that is raising a lot of awareness around the world and of course a lot of concerns and worries on how if this should have some limits. If not, if we can just leave an open space for creativity. So let's hope that this goes very well. So let's talk a bit about those challenges and limitations that AI should have in the fight against corruption. How much you think Roberto can and cannot be achieved in that line?
Well, Eduardo, here in Ecuador, as in many places around the world, the use of artificial intelligence presents challenge and limitation. For example, lack of data. One of the primary obstacles of the development of effective AI application is the lack of sufficient high quality data. For AI algorithms to work correctly, we need large amount of high quality data for training. Remember, AI is a model we train with historical data. With more historical data, more effective are these training. In Ecuador, it can be a challenge to obtain data set that are large and accurate enough to train AI models. So we don't have enough of data. It's one of the big problems. Data quality, even if we have a large amount of data available, data quality can be a problem. Incomplete, outdated, or biased data can negatively affect the effective of AI model and lead to incorrect decision. Garbage in, garbage out. We can have a large amount of data, but if it's not correctly, we don't have correctly answers. Limited resources. Development of a application requires significant resources. We need hardware, software, and highly skilled personnel in Ecuador and in other countries. May face limitation in terms of resource to invest in AI project. In Ecuador, we have 5 years talking about EI. So we don't have enough professionals working in that field. Regulation and ethics. AI possess ethical and regulation challenge. Ecuador, like another country, needs to establish strong legal and ethical frameworks to guide and use AI and ensure privacy and fairness. Digital literacy to fully harness the potential of AI, a population that is technology savvy and digital literate is needed. This may require significant effort in education and training. Here in Ecuador, we're still trying to educate the population about use AI, protect its data. So we have a large way to go. Access to technology. Not all regions of Ecuador may have equal access to the necessary technology to implement a application, like internet. All the population of Ecuador may not have internet in his machine, in his computer. This can be weighting of digital divide and equality of in access to benefit of AI. Despite of this challenge, it's important to know that Ecuador, like another country, can overcome this limitation through investment, collaboration, and concerted efforts to address these mentioned issues. AI has the potential to provide significant benefit in areas such as healthcare, education, agriculture, and natural resource management, among others, and overcoming this obstacle can contribute to sustainable development and progress in Ecuador society. Eduardo.
Thanks, Roberto. I think that there are actually some challenges, as you mentioned in Ecuador. The main problem is that this is like a new topic. We are still in the process of having the more data published from the public sector, and of course, this can raise some limits in developing machine learning models because, as you mentioned, we need more data available about
More
more
quality.
topics, more qualitative data, of course, that we should take into consideration. So another consideration that you kind of raised about was about probably ethical issues. So for Karen, what you think are ethical considerations and potential pitfalls when using AI in this topic?
Sure, Eduardo. I mean, we are from Latin America where we have information and not all the people has the knowledge about how to handle it, how to protect it. So that's when it's more important that, for example, governments or privacy institutions has the empowerment of this topic. So I think about ethical considerations must be relying three ideas. The first one, of course, is the data privacy and protections laws. So collecting, analyzing data for corruption detection might infringe upon individuals' privacy. Uh, but in the other hand, we have the benefits of these data detection models. So, as well as we can have a strong laws and people in knowledge about how they can save their data safety and data security, as well we can use this data and not to be infringing this law protection. And the second idea is that, of course, AI algorithms can generate bias from training data. As Roberto was saying, garbage in, garbage out. So this is a well-known problem about AI solutions because the quality of the information we are using. So, for example, if we train a model to detect criminals, might be infringing laws against minority groups or ethical minority groups or sexual minority groups into a bias in the artificial intelligence model. So this is a very strong topic to be treated after we use AI solutions in the society. So we shouldn't perpetuate this historical data that we are using to be reflected in our models. Um, and the third idea is the false positive. Of course, the false positive that might be caused because of these quality assurance data problems. The false positives tell us that the artificial intelligence models shouldn't be taking any decisions, but should lead to the humans to take better decisions. So, uh, if there are more and more people with the technical skills, with the preparation and the use and the knowledge about these benefits of AI, we can have less false positives, but never this will be zero. So we shouldn't let the artificial intelligence be taking decisions. And that's why, well, my answer has these three ideas, no? The first one, the ethical should be rely in safety of the data and not perpetuate bias in the models, to not be engaging more potential problems with minorities in our data. And the third one is lead to the false positives that can be in the AI solutions. So that's my answer, Eduardo.
Great. One of the questions that we're having is kind of we are going to share some slides later. Of course, we can do that. We kind of thought about this session more like a conversation, but I can actually take a bit into consideration that suggestion. So we'd like to share with you experience that we've been doing in the organization that I represent, which is called Fundapi. And actually, this was also mentioned in lining session during the summit. But I think we can kind of deep dive a bit right now, of course, to show you one of how our experience has been in having, of course, this platform and usually use it for some projects. So one of the things that we were developing, actually to mention that our organization has been working in the intersection of privacy and technology for several years, we started to wonder how could we address the issue of kind of reducing corruption and detecting anomalies in public procurement processes in Ecuador. So one of the things that we did, the first thing was to start working with data related to public procurement processes. That went actually with it started actually in 2018, where the Public Procurement Office, National Public Procurement Office, started to publish the data related to public procurement processes. Of course, it was that year actually was really interesting because more data was becoming available and more things we can do with that. So the first thing that we did was to actually create some visualizations to understand how the government was spending the public procurement contracts and the money based on the emergency of public COVID-19 pandemic. So at that time, in early 2020, some data about public procurement processes was published. So we started to get that data and create some visualizations about how many contracts were awarded, how many companies and how many persons were being awarded contracts, which were the most bought products, for example, medical issues, medicines, and things like that. So that was the first version of the platform. And then we decided to go a bit deeper on that. So our main idea was to actually to drive the control of which data and which information you should get from that platform, not from us as intermediaries, but as directly from the public. So our basic theory was to allow people to decide which specific project or which specific institution they wanted to monitor and to see how they were spending the money from the public. So that was the first, for us, idea to create the new version of that platform. So that platform, we actually took advantage of more data being available about public procurement processes. And based on that, we created version 2, which actually, besides getting some visualizations, we started to develop some machine learning algorithms, kind to train them to detect first red flags in public processes, and secondly, of course, trying to find which public procurement processes have the most probability of being declared like deserted and not being able to be awarded. So we started to develop that platform, and we launched that in actually July 20 in July 2021, I think. So that platform actually right now is, of course, showing a bit of information, sending alerts to the user that use it, but more importantly, actually using machine learning models to actually predict how processes are going to behave, how public procurement processes are going to behave. And of course, this is not like a thing that we did behind closed doors. We actually had a lot of meetings with, for example, public procurement observatories, and of course, they suggested some features that we should add. So we were working like that, and currently, that platform, of course, even includes this idea of GPT to actually kind to work with the data and handle the data to get some information about it. So to deep dive a bit about how these algorithms are working, what we did, I think we can ask Roberto, which has been involved in that development from the start, to kind of share with us how these algorithms were trained, what has been the main challenges with that experience, and what we can actually are looking right now to develop in the future. So if Roberto can share with us that detail, that would be great.
Hi, Eduardo. Let's talk about the challenge we have to make this algorithm. First, we have an ETL of a public contract data from CERCOP and use open contract data standard. That we use open data to make this algorithm. Then we have the ETL, we have the data in our data warehouse. We calculate the probability of a public procurement process being declared cert with some machine learning model. What machine learning model we used? We use first supervised learning. That means we have historical data and historical results. With this data, we can train an algorithm to detect the probability of a procurement process can be declared desert. Yep. So we use supervised learning and classification algorithm. Yeah. To talk about same topics. Well, what model we try to make this to calculate this probability? We use like GBM, XGBoost, and Auto ML like PyCaret. We tried several models about 1 or 2 months. Try different experiments. We use optimization hyperparameters techniques like Bayesian optimization, auto scalearn, and some other libraries in Python. We principal language of development is Python, to make more accuracy models. So at the end, we have a model can take in real time. We gather in the information in real time, and we can calculate the probability in real time. So you enter the platform. We can share later where is the URL, comprasabiertas.org. In English, open purchase, but the URL is comprasabiertas.org. You can enter, you can sign in, and you can monitoring public institution. So you select the public institution, you can monitoring, and you enter that profile of that public institution, and you can see some visualization, some statistic. Like Eduardo said, we calculate red flags. It's an open contract standard, and we calculate the probability of process can be declared desert. Yep. And then we have some problems like imbalanced data. Why? Because it's more process can we have more process that not declared desert. So we have too much process, and we have a little data about process can was declared desert. So we said we need historical data and we need historical results. So we have a little data. Can we use to train this algorithm? So a big skill was imbalanced data. So we use some algorithms can manage this imbalanced data.
So one of the questions that has been asked on the comment section relates to how do we match between what is spent and what that means actually, and how the budget is estimated. So I can actually mention about that we are also taking advantage that in Ecuador it was adopted the open contracting data standard. So it's very well documented on how you can match actually uh, the money that institution is actually going to spend in a specific category, and then how is it awarded. So you can track actually the whole flow of the public procurement process. So it gets more easier if you can actually uh, create or would like to try to create a solution. So that's one of the basic advantages of being in a country or actually having those standards adopted. So that's actually what I can mention. And also, as Karen was mentioning, of course, you have another instance for that. From the scope of the public transparency law, you actually have with some frequently that the budget execution is published from uh, each institution. So you can also match that, how the money is spent from the institution, how the budget is actually published that is being spent, and then actually make you conclusions. So kind of continuing with the conversation, of course, as Roberto was mentioning, we kind of developed some algorithms based on the data that was developed, but that was published. But the main issue was the quality of data at that moment. So thinking about that, what strategies should be implemented to ensure that these algorithms can actually work in the sense that they are built or that they are developed? And not just considering the lack of quality of data, but also kind of not inadvertently reinforce existing biases and disparities. For example, let's talk about the justice systems or human rights, or even target marginalized communities or individuals, potentially exacerbating social inequalities. So, how do you think, Karen, this could be addressed to actually reduce this probability of having this bias and combine or actually being able to create a solution based on the lack of quality and also not involving some bias in the algorithm?
Well, Eduardo, low quality or worse, manipulated data can lead to inaccurate corruption assessments. So that's a very big problem. I will say we're looking for diverse and representative training data. Or, well, you can say that might happen in an ideal world. But we know that we have models that can be used to unbalance data. So we need to have also a regularly audit for artificial intelligence algorithms for bias. For example, using fairness-aware machine learning techniques. That might help us to identify and rectify bias in both data and algorithms to minimize unfair profiling. We know, and this is a very known topic, that, for example, in credit scoring, the credit scoring models used in the banking sector, for example, they take historical information about a socio-demographic and credit information of all the clients. But let's remember, the majority of the information, for example, has more credit cards given to men, for example, or given to a special group of persons, and they have their profile. So the model learns about these patterns. I mean, the model doesn't have any fault about the decisions that this is making, because the model is learning. But the problem is the information. So the people, us, the people that we are using this data, should be informed about the bias, about the techniques we have to use to avoid that the models learned the discrimination patterns. So the first one, I will say, we need to use, like I was saying, machine learning techniques that can identify and correct this bias. And the second way that we can balance the historical data with the objective that we have now about forget all of these bad patterns, also can be we can do this about defining and using fairness metrics to assess the impact of artificial intelligence algorithms on different demographic groups. Continuously monitoring these metrics and evaluating the algorithm for fairness. So this is not a one-time job. This is not for just artificial intelligence. I mean, we know that we are in a time where we want justice, and all of the groups, ethnic groups, sex, gender groups, has representability. So we want models that can correct our past mistakes by using these tools of artificial intelligence. But we need to measure. So this is not just a dream. This is an actually tool that we can use, metrics that can measure fairness. The use of AI as a tool to assist human decision makers rather than replace them entirely. So we know that we have this objective or this dream, and all of the people that are taking decisions should be informed about how to use artificial intelligence in this fight. Maintaining a role of for human judgment in critical decisions, but being helped by this assist of artificial intelligence, and the main experts to evaluate and address potential bias and equity issues. I mean, for example, socialists or people that know about more of this topic, and that they can use the insights from artificial intelligence, and so they can reinforce their ideas in the society, that might lead to a better decision making for everyone. And like I was saying, to be forgetting these bad patterns and not be repeating in our models. So back to you, Eduardo.
It's an interesting topic indeed. So, back to Roberto, what are your kind of briefly uh, answers related to how can governments actually balance the need of transparency with concerns about data privacy? Because it's a lot of conversation, a lot of issues around how these algorithms should or should not uh, handle personal data, and of course, how data privacy cannot be addressed. So, how do you think governments should balance the need for transparency with those concerns about data privacy when sharing sensitive information, if such, as part of their anti corruption initiatives? What's your take on that?
Well, Eduardo, we talk about this topic too many days, too many nights, too many hours about privacy data and fight corruption to go on these issues. In Ecuador, there is a law requiring public institutions to publish personal information of the people who work there, which has generated a debate about how to combine privacy with the fight against corruption. There's still no agreement, and we are helping organization with Fundapi to achieve both aspects. So we still working how we combine those aspects, privacy and fight corruption. We still making a way, making a path with a public institution about what the law require and what the privacy require. Here in Ecuador, we are living in a dangerous moment about danger. So the people don't want to offer this public data because we have some call it vacunas. I don't know how can explain in English that problem we have here in Ecuador. So the people don't want to extortion. That's name. Sorry. Entonces, so the people don't want to offer that public and sensitive data. So we have to create a middle point about that. So we are making that path with Fundapi and Eduardo. Let's go to you.
That's an interesting issue, as you were mentioning. When you are in an environment where insecurity and, of course, extortion and things like that are rising, of course, there's more worry in the citizens about sharing and who can access their data. So actually, it's really an interesting conversation about which limits should be there, how you balance how the kind of the interest to fight corruption against protecting the data privacy right from people. It's really a strong conversation about that. So
Really,
thinking
who
about
has to
topics,
publish and who has to see that data?
yeah, that's a lot of responsibility actually on that issue. So kind of thinking about actual topics and things like that. One of the main drivers of the interest about AI has been OpenAI and its ChatGPT tool. So, can we say or ask, maybe Karen, if you think that GPT or generative pre-trained transformers algorithms or even natural language processing algorithms can actually fight corruption? Is this like more a hype than a reality? What do you think about this? Because everyone is talking about ChatGPT, everyone is talking about OpenAI, but if we to take that tool towards fighting corruption, do you think that's possible? Do you think that works? What's your take?
Okay, well, we can set some basis about this question. ChatGPT is a text-based AI model. So as a model is training in historical data, and the data that is using ChatGPT is the data on internet. So there is an effort in the Open AI company that is offering ChatGPT about not using false news or information that is not correct on internet. We know there is a lot of information that is not correct on internet. So ChatGPT as a tool using this information is very good when we use it as an exploratory tool or as a, the way we use Google to find information, but we don't set Google to take decisions. You use to have more information to take those decisions. So let's think about the models that we have now. For example, the models we have to banking in the banking sector. For example, the credit scoring. The credit scoring give us a probability to default for a person, but the probability is never 0 or 1. So there is never certainty in the decision that the model is making. So we're talking about that every artificial intelligence model that is being built using data give us a probability. But the mainly use that we have about this probability is to set the optimal point. That optimal point is set the decision. So I wouldn't say that a model can take a decision by itself. And returning to ChatGPT, I wouldn't say that this can take a decision because ChatGPT can provide information and education resources on anti-corruption laws, ethics, and best practices. I mean, it's a super intelligent assistant because what we can read on a month, ChatGPT can give us a resume on 2 minutes or 1 sec. So it can help to raise the knowledge about the topic. It can set an opinion based on personal opinions. So the better we can have about ChatGPT is to have an opinion that isn't so personal or that isn't so established on some group societies. I mean, this is the good about artificial intelligence, that it can be neutral, but just to give us information. No? We know that there is a lot of students and employees using ChatGPT as to analyze textual data such as reports, news articles, social media content, to identify trends or patterns related to corruption. I mean, this is a fact. This can help organizations and investigators stay informed about emerging issues. And this is a very good tool to monitoring. So as well as we use these tools like ChatGPT and another AI models to monitor, this can help us to identify the patterns that is being happening about corruption, for example, or money laundering or fraud. So as a tool, yes, this is a very good tool. But let's talk about legal and policy guidance in this topic. ChatGPT can provide guidance in this, but this is not a subject of legacy. I mean, we have laws, but these laws are applied to people. For the countries, for example, in Latin America, we don't have right now laws to regulate artificial intelligence. Some countries like United States of America or some countries in Europe, they have this in mind, some laws to control artificial intelligence. But in Latin America, this is not an issue yet because of Roberto Esteves. I mean, in Latin America, we have real problems to be concerned, like vaccination. So this is not a topic here, but it should be, because we have right now ChatGPT, for example, for everybody over the world. But just some countries are taking steps forward the legacy of the laws that control these tools. So I wouldn't say that ChatGPT or another tools might be taking steps in every country against corruption, for example, until we have the right laws to control it. But just to reinforce or guide decisions, but not making them. So that's my answer, Eduardo.
Thank you. We're getting to the final minutes, actually, just 5 minutes. I would like to ask you the final question, just a quick X tweet type answer. Uh, I cannot remember this movie from the 90s, Minority Report, in which criminals were arrested before committing their crimes. The case of the film, the prediction was based on three clairvoyants. But you think, taking that idea, that at some point we are going to reach this level where AI can be that element that would allow a case of corruption to be detected before it's committed? I just like a quick answer from both of you to close this session in the final minutes.
I mean, Minority Report is a horror movie in AI models. So the relief here is that until we don't have enough information and the quality assurance of this information, we shouldn't be worried about the effects that the artificial intelligence can take decisions. So I stand by that the artificial models should give us information, but not taking decisions like this is guilty, this person is not guilty, or something like that. Just maybe give us the probability of that guiltiness, but not the decision. I hope that never happens. What do you think, Roberto?
Minority Report is one of my favorite movies. First, so take for example Facebook or Spotify or Amazon. They already tell us why we might like, why we might hear, why we might see. With that sample in mind, we could then identify an act of corruption before it happens. Obviously, having the right data and making a correct analysis of patterns and behaviors as social networks already do. So, answer the question is in some point, in some moment, artificial intelligence can analyze data and tell us we might have a pattern of corruption in this process. Not now, even in few years, in few months, we don't know, but we will get there, Eduardo.
Too soon. So, well, thank you so much, everyone. This is like been a great conversation. That's for us for this session. And a few things I want to tell you about before we all sign off. Of course, many tools have been created, many topics have been discussed, but in the end, civic tech is a bridge that connects technologists, designers, and social activists with governments in order to improve their communities. For the past 10 years, Code for All has become the bridge that connects civic tech actors around the world so they can make a bigger impact in the regions. Your contribution fuels a platform that's all about leveraging strengths, celebrating diversity, and fostering collaboration for the greater good of civic tech. Your support isn't just a donation, it's a statement. It says you are a key player in this global movement. You are ready to dive in, share, and make a real impact. Please donate now. There's information on the chat on the screen. You can actually support this initiative. You will be able to find the recording of this panel on the YouTube channel. If you like what you saw today and are interested in joining the Code for All community, you can join the Slack space. And of course, you can actually subscribe to the mailing list. You'll find all these links on the YouTube session. And just like to end by saying thank you all. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Roberto. And we look forward to continue this conversation at some point. Thank you for Code for All, and Godspeed for the civic technology community.
Thank you all.